So, imagine putting on a really cutting-edge virtual reality headset.
Right, like one of those fully immersive ones.
Exactly. You load up a simulation, you look down at your digital hands, and you look up at the sprawling digital sky.
Okay, I'm with you.
And suddenly you realize that you aren't just the player wearing the headset, like you are the headset itself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You are the digital sky. You're the raw, underlying binary code that's literally generating the entire game.
So you're basically the space and the occupant of the space at the exact same time.
You nailed it. And today, for this deep dive, we are looking at a remarkably dense piece of source text that proves, well, both mathematically and philosophically, that you are the headset.
It's quite a trip to read.
It really is. It's a short German poem from October 10th, 2007, and it was written by someone using the pseudonym Mandela Matrix.
Right, and it's only exactly 15 lines long, which is wild.
Yeah, just 15 lines. It's titled simply Ich bin, which translates to I am. So for those of you listening, our mission today is to figure out how a few lines of text can just completely deconstruct our entire understanding of reality.
Yeah, and, while 15 lines might sound like something you'd read on a coffee mug and immediately forget, the mechanics of this specific text operate differently than almost anything else we've analyzed.
How so?
Well, usually a piece of text is like a linear vehicle, right? It drives you from concept A to concept B.
Right, a straight line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this poem functions as a linguistic fractal.
A fractal, like the math concept.
Yeah, exactly like the math concept.
Yeah.
In mathematics, a fractal is a complex, non-regular geometric shape that basically looks the same at every single scale.
So if you zoom in, it just keeps repeating.
You got it.
Yeah.
If you look at the jagged edge of a fractal from a distance, it has a certain overall shape. But when you zoom in on one tiny piece of that edge, you realize that microscopic piece contains the exact same staggering, infinitely complex shape as the whole.
That is mind-bending.
It really is. The deeper you look into a fractal, the more you realize you are staring at the entirety of the system contained perfectly within the part. And, this poem forces you to do exactly that with the concept of your own identity.
I read this short poem before we started, and initially I just thought it was like a nice, maybe slightly cliche spiritual quote.
A lot of people probably read it that way at first glance.
For sure. But when you told me to look closer, to kind of look at it through that fractal lens, it completely deconstructed how I understand the physical world.
That's the beauty of it. Let's start at the very foundation, the first 4 lines, because it immediately attacks the way we perceive reality.
Okay, let's hear it. In German, the first stanza reads, Ich bin der Himmel, in den ich schau. Ich bin die Erde, auf der ich baue. Ich bin der Körper, in dem ich wohne. Ich bin der Geist, der mich durchdringt.
Right, and to translate that directly into English so we can really get into the mechanics of it, I am the sky into which I look. I am the earth on which I build. I am the body in which I live. I am the spirit that permeates me.
It's so repetitive, but in a really hypnotic way.
It is. And what we are witnessing in these 4 lines is the systematic, deliberate collapse of the subject-object divide.
The subject-object divide, let's unpack that for a second.
Sure. So this is arguably the most foundational concept in Western philosophy, dating all the way back to René Descartes in the 17th century.
The I think, therefore I am guy.
That's the one. Descartes gave us dualism, which is the strict separation between the internal mind and the external world.
Okay, so the inside versus the outside.
Right. And if you think about your daily existence, you operate under this strict separation all the time. There's the I, the subject, the internal observer who is looking. And there's the sky, the objects, the external thing being observed.
Yeah, that's just basic common sense, right?
Exactly. But the text insists, right from line 1, that the observer and the observed are the exact same entity.
Wait, I mean, that sounds like a clever semantic trick, but practically speaking, it doesn't hold up.
Why do you say that?
Well, if I am walking outside and I stub my toe on a rock, that rock is very clearly an external object.
Okay, fair point.
I am the subject feeling the pain, and the rock is the object causing it. So how does the text account for the friction of physical reality? If I'm the sky I look into, isn't that just an infinite, dizzying, closed loop that completely ignores the physical world?
It definitely is a closed loop, but it doesn't ignore physical reality at all. It recontextualizes it.
Recontextualizes how?
Look at the specific verbs Mandela Matrix chooses. Looking into the sky, building on the earth, living in the body, permeating the spirit.
Okay, yeah, they're all very active.
Exactly. They're all active verbs. They're actions. And in physics and philosophy and just in basic common sense, an action inherently requires a dimensional space in order to occur.
Right. You can't just build in a vacuum.
Precisely. You cannot build a structure without a foundation to build upon. So the speaker here is making a radical phenomenological claim.
Which
they are claiming to be both the actor performing the verb and the foundational space that allows the verb to exist.
Oh, man. So going back to my toe example.
Right. The rock you stub your toe on is part of the earth on which I build. You are basically experiencing a friction point within the system of yourself.
That is wild. It's kind of like an autoimmune response in reverse.
Oh, I like that. Expand on that a bit.
Well, in an autoimmune disease, the body attacks its own tissue because it mistakenly thinks it's a foreign invader, right? It creates a false boundary where there shouldn't be one.
Exactly.
So what the speaker is doing here is looking at the vast, foreign, external universe like the sky, the earth, and recognizing it as its own tissue. It's healing that false boundary.
That is an incredibly precise mechanism to describe this. The text is literally curing a philosophical autoimmune disease.
Because we do walk around feeling so alienated from our environment.
We really do. We perceive everything outside of us as other. We think we are just these isolated consciousnesses trapped inside meat suits, wandering around a cold, indifferent rock.
Yeah, that's a pretty bleak way to look at it, but it's true.
But look at the duality presented in just these first 4 lines. Sky and earth. This is the macrocosm, the vast external physical universe spanning above and below us.
The big stuff.
Right. Then immediately it is paired with the body and the spirit, the microcosm, the intensely personal internal universe.
Wow, okay.
The text basically draws a massive box around all of existence, from the furthest galaxy to the deepest internal thought, and stamps I am on all 4 corners.
Okay, hold on though, because if we've just established this massive universal scale, the sky, the earth, the spirit, why does the text suddenly shrink everything way back down?
Ah, you notice this shift.
Yeah, because the second stanza is a really massive, jarring shift in tone. We jump from the heavens and the earth to basically sitting at a family dinner table.
Is deliberate whiplash.
I'll read the next 4 lines. Ich bin der Vater, der mich führt. Ich bin die Mutter, die mich spürt. Ich bin der Bruder, mit dem ich spiele. Ich bin die Schwester, die ich liebe.
And in English, that translates to, I am the father who guides me. I am the mother who senses me. I am the brother with whom I play. I am the sister whom I love.
See, why did the author take this expansive cosmic worldview and suddenly turn it into a family drama?
Well, because once the poem has established the environmental matrix, the physical space you exist in, it has to address the psychological matrix.
The internal world.
Exactly, the internal relational world. We are a social species. Our reality is not just built on dirt and sky, it is built on human connection.
Okay, that makes sense.
So the shift is jarring on purpose. It forces the reader to realize that the fractal applies inwards just as much as it applies outwards. We are dealing here with internalized family archetypes.
Archetypes.
Right. And to really understand how radical this stanza is, we need to look at the work of the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung.
Oh, Jung. He's the one who came up with the idea of the collective unconscious, right?
Yes, exactly.
Like the idea that we all share these inherited, deep-seated psychological patterns.
That's spot on. Jung argued that across all cultures, all eras, and all human experiences, there are these universal templates of human behavior. He called these archetypes.
So we all have the same basic source code for human relationships.
Exactly. We don't just learn what a mother or a father is from our biological parents. We are born with an innate psychological blueprint of those roles already installed.
Oh, fascinating.
And what the speaker is doing in this stanza is systematically claiming ownership of every single core relational archetype. Let's break down the mechanics of each one, starting with the parents.
Okay, so the first one is, I am the father who guides me.
Right. In Jungian terms, the father archetype, which is often associated with the concept of logos, represents structure, authority, order, and direction.
The rule maker.
Basically, yeah. The father is the psychological compass that provides guidance out into the dangerous, unknown world.
Okay, and the mother. I am the mother who senses me.
The mother archetype, which is associated with Eros, represents deep emotional grounding. It's intuition, unconditional acceptance, and the capacity to truly sense or deeply feel the internal state of the child.
So it's pure nurturing.
It is the ultimate nurturing presence, the psychological womb, if you will. Now, in normal human development, a child relies on external caregivers to provide these functions.
Well, yeah, you literally need your parents to guide you and soothe you so you don't walk into traffic or just, die.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But as you mature, the goal of psychological development, what Jung actually called individuation, is to internalize those archetypes.
So you have to become your own parent.
Precisely. If you fail to internalize the father, you end up wandering through life aimless.
Oh, I know people like that.
We all do. You're constantly seeking authority figures, gurus, or rigid ideologies to tell you what to do. You basically outsource your compass.
And if you fail to internalize the mother,
Then you become emotionally fragile. You're constantly seeking external validation, desperate for partners or friends to soothe your anxieties because you simply cannot soothe yourself.
wow, that is incredibly common.
It is. So by stating, I am the father who guides me, and I am the mother who senses me, the author is declaring a state of total, radical psychological self-sufficiency.
Okay, that makes total sense for the parents. They represent survival and structure. But then the text shifts from vertical relationships like parent down to child to horizontal relationships, peer to peer.
Right. The siblings.
Yeah, I am the brother with whom I play. I am the sister whom I love. Why are the sibling archetypes even necessary if you already have the parent archetypes figured out and internalized?
Because human psychology requires a lot more than just survival and structure.
Fair enough.
It requires friction, testing, and unconditional peer connection. The brother archetype represents peer interaction, camaraderie, and honestly, the shadow self.
The shadow self, like a rival.
Sort of. Think about play. Play is not a trivial thing. In developmental psychology, play is the primary mechanism through which mammals test their physical and social boundaries without fatal consequences.
Oh, like puppies wrestling.
Exactly. A brother is someone you wrestle with, someone you compete against, someone who challenges you on an equal footing.
And the sister.
The sister archetype represents poor, non-transactional connection. It is the sibling bond at its most compassionate and empathetic.
This actually hits on a massive modern issue.
Oh, absolutely. How so?
Just think about how many people today suffer from a profound lack of these horizontal archetypes and how they try to fill that void. Like, we are living in an absolute epidemic of loneliness right now.
We are.
And you see people forming these intense parasocial relationships to compensate. People will literally spend 10 hours a day watching a Twitch streamer play video games or listening to podcasters just chat because they are desperately outsourcing that brother archetype.
That is a brilliant observation.
Yeah, they just need someone to play with, even if it's a one-way digital mirror on a screen. And they outsource the sister archetype to influencers who project this carefully curated sense of care and intimacy. We are constantly looking outward to populate our psychological dinner table.
Which is exactly why the stanza is so vital. It provides the antidote to that exact modern sickness.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
Does this text mean the speaker is profoundly, desperately lonely? Like, are they just sitting in an empty room inventing an imaginary family because they have no one?
No. It means the exact opposite, actually.
Okay, explain.
It means the speaker recognizes that the human psyche is a fully populated ecosystem all on its own. You do not need to extract play, love, guidance, or nurturing from the external world to feel whole, because those capacities are completely indigenous to your own mind.
So it's empowering.
Incredibly empowering. When you realize that you possess the innate capacity to entertain yourself, to forgive yourself, to parent yourself, you become immune to the desperate, grasping loneliness that defines so much of the modern human condition.
Okay, so we've internalized our emotional support system. We
Yeah.
don't need a literal mother or father to feel secure, and we don't need external peers to feel connected. We are a totally self-sustaining emotional ecosystem.
Right.
But humans don't just suffer from loneliness.
Right.
We suffer from existential dread.
Oh, yes. The big one.
Even if I am perfectly psychologically balanced in my living room, the moment I walk outside at night and look up at a universe that is, 93 billion light years across, I just feel like an insignificant speck of dust. Does the text give us a toolkit for dealing with the sheer, crushing scale of the cosmos?
It does, and it does so by drastically shifting the center of gravity yet again in the next stanza.
Okay, I'm ready.
Let's look at the third section, where the poem shoots us directly out of the Earth's atmosphere. Ich bin die Sonne, die mich wärmt. Ich bin der Mond, der mich umschwärmt. Ich bin die Sterne, die mich lehren. Ich bin die Engel, die mich ehren.
And for those listening, in English, that is, I am the sun that warms me. I am the moon that swarms or surrounds me. I am the stars that teach me. I'm the angels that honor me.
It's a massive escalation, isn't
It
it?
really is. We've gone from the dirt to the family, all the way to the celestial bodies.
And notice how the interactions have changed here. We are no longer dealing with human-to-human dynamics like playing or guiding. We have moved entirely into the realm of the celestial and the divine.
Right.
And to understand how this cures the existential dread you mentioned, we have to understand how ancient philosophical systems approached the cosmos. Specifically, we should look at Advaita Vedanta from the Indian philosophical tradition and Hermeticism from the Western esoteric tradition.
Advaita Vedanta. Okay, break that down for me. What does that actually mean?
Advaita literally translates to not two, or non-dualism.
Not two, so one.
Exactly. It is a school of Hindu philosophy that reached its peak formulation in the 8th century under the philosopher Adi Shankara. The central premise of Advaita Vedanta is that the deepest, truest essence of the individual consciousness, which they call the Atman, is not separate from the ultimate infinite universal reality, which is called Brahman.
Okay, so the drop of water is the ocean.
Precisely. The illusion of separation, the idea that you are a tiny speck of dust looking up at a giant sun, is called Maya. It is an optical illusion of the mind.
Wow.
When you look at the stars and feel small, Advaita Vedanta basically argues that you are suffering from amnesia. You have forgotten that you are made of the exact same fundamental consciousness as the stars.
So instead of zooming out on a map and realizing how small my house is, it's like recognizing that the same physics that govern the nuclear fusion in the sun are the exact same physics governing the firing of the synapses in my brain that allow me to perceive the sun.
That is a perfect way to put it.
There is no actual boundary.
None at all. And the Western equivalent is found in Hermeticism, which summarizes this entire concept of the famous maxim, as above, so below, as within, so without.
Ah, I've heard that quote before.
It's very famous. The macrocosm always reflects the microcosm. So let's look at that specific language Mandela Matrix uses to reinforce this. I am the sun that warms me.
Right.
The sun is the ultimate life-giving force of our solar system. Without it, the Earth is just a frozen, dead rock. By claiming to be the sun, the speaker is acknowledging that their own life-giving energy is completely self-generated.
And then I am the moon that surrounds me.
Yes, and the German word used here, umschwärmt, is really fascinating.
Umschwärmt. It sounds almost like a swarm of bees.
It does share that root, actually. It means to swarm around, but in a romantic or adoring context, it means to dote upon, to surround with affection and attention.
Oh, that's beautiful.
The moon in this poem is not just a cold, dead, cratered satellite. It is a luminous, comforting presence that orbits the self, bathing it in reflected light. And again, the text insists that you are the moon. You are comforting yourself with your own reflected light in the darkness.
The next line is the one that really gets me, though. I am the stars that teach me.
Why does that one stand out to you?
Well, throughout human history, across the oceans and the deserts, humans have used the stars to navigate. We looked up to the heavens to find out where we were on Earth. The stars were our literal teachers.
And in the fractal logic of this poem, you are the ancient map, and you are the traveler reading the map. You are teaching yourself about your own vastness.
It's so circular.
It is. But the true climax of this stanza, and perhaps the most controversial line in the entire poem from a theological standpoint, is the final one.
I am the angels that honor me.
Yes.
Yeah, let's stop there. Because traditionally, in almost every monotheistic theological framework, the hierarchy is exceptionally strict. Right?
Very strict.
God is at the top. Angels are the divine messengers, slightly below God. And humans are way down in the mud, constantly groveling, praying, and honoring the angels and God, just hoping they drop a little bit of grace down on us. The text completely upends that.
It does. It is an audacious, almost heretical reversal of the cosmic hierarchy.
It doesn't just say the angels honor the human, which, is crazy enough on its own. It says the speaker is the angels that are doing the honoring.
This is the ultimate logical conclusion of the non-dualistic frameworks we just discussed.
If Atman is Brahman.
Exactly. If the inner self is the ultimate reality, then the divine is entirely internal. There is no external authority to worship.
So it's all inside us.
The reverence, the awe, the profound sense of the sacred that humans have traditionally projected outward onto winged beings in the clouds, all of that is actually a property of your own consciousness. The angels are the highest, most pure expression of your own spirit, honoring the sacredness of your own localized existence.
You are divine, and you are honoring your own divinity.
That's it.
Man, if you truly, deeply internalize that concept, it changes your entire posture in the world. You don't walk around with your head bowed, feeling crushed by the weight of the universe, or waiting for a deity to save you.
No, you don't.
You walk around with immense dignity, knowing you are an active participant in the celestial mechanics of reality.
Beautifully said.
But this brings us to a huge structural problem.
Oh.
The author has just claimed ownership of the dirt, the sky, the mother, the father, the sun, the moon, and the angels. What is left?
Ah, I see what you mean.
How do you possibly end a poem when you have already consumed the entirety of the known and unknown universe? There are no words left.
Well, you reach the apex of the fractal. You reach the point where language itself begins to break down because there are simply no more nouns left to claim. Let's look at the climax of the poem, the final three phrases.
Okay. Ich bin alles, ich bin nichts, ich bin.
And in English, I am everything, I am nothing, I am.
Okay, let's take the first part. I am everything. That tracks perfectly. It is the mathematical, logical conclusion of the previous 12 lines.
Right.
If I am the earth, the sky, the family, the stars, and the angels, then by definition, the set is complete. I am everything. I am the whole universe.
Logically, yeah.
But the very next breath, I am nothing. I have to push back hard on this.
Please do. Let's hear it.
If the author just spent all this time building up these incredibly vivid, rich, life-affirming images, the warmth of the sun, the love of a sister, the comfort of the moon, why wipe it all out with a giant eraser?
You see it as an erasure.
I do. Doesn't nothing imply a void? It sounds like nihilism. It sounds like a dark, empty depression. Why end this incredibly empowering journey on a note that feels like a total cancellation of everything we just built?
This is a vital pushback, and honestly, it reveals a very deep bias in Western thought.
Bias? How so?
In the West, we generally treat nothing as a negative value, a deficit, a literal lack of something. But we have to view this through the philosophical lens the text has constructed. Why does the state of being everything logically necessitate being nothing?
I'm not seeing the connection.
To understand this, let's break down how the human brain actually defines a thing in the first place. Think of an object in the room with you right now. A table.
Okay, I'm looking at my desk.
How do you know that the table is a distinct thing?
Well, I know it has edges. I can see where the wood of the table ends and the air around it begins. It has boundaries. It is located in a specific spot.
Exactly. The human mind defines a thing by its boundaries, its edges, its limits. You know a table is a table specifically because it is not a chair. It is not the floor.
Right, it's defined by what it isn't.
A distinct, localized object relies entirely on separation to exist in our perception. Now, let's introduce the Buddhist concept of shunyata.
Shunyata.
Which is often translated as emptiness, but a much, much better translation is the emptiness of independent existence.
Emptiness of independent existence. Okay, break that down for me like I'm a 5-year-old, because that sounds complicated.
It's actually very intuitive once you grasp it. Imagine that wooden table again. Shunyata asks you to find the true tableness of the table.
Okay.
If you take away the wood, is it still a table?
No.
Okay, where did the wood come from?
A tree.
And if you take away the tree, is there a table?
Obviously not.
What made the tree grow? Sunlight, soil, and rain. If you take away the sun, the dirt, and the water, the table ceases to exist entirely. Furthermore, if you take away the human concept of sitting down to eat or work, the object has no purpose.
Wow, okay.
So the table doesn't actually exist as an independent thing. It is just a temporary culmination of sunlight, water, dirt, and human ideas. It's empty of a separate, independent self.
That is mind-blowing. So the table is just an intersection of a billion other processes.
Correct. Now apply that logic to the poem. The speaker has claimed to be absolutely everything. The sun, the earth, the angels. If you are literally everything, what happens to your edges?
They disappear. You don't have any edges because there is nothing outside of you to create a boundary against.
Precisely. You have no defining limits.
So,
you are not this as opposed to that because you are both this and that.
Oh, I get it now.
Therefore, without limits, without boundaries, you cannot be categorized or defined as a distinct thing anymore. To be everything is to simultaneously be no thing in the traditional sense of a localized, definable object.
My mind is officially bending, so nothing in this context isn't a dark void at all.
Not at all.
It isn't a depressing empty room. It is boundlessness. It is the total freedom from labels, categories, and limits. By saying, I am nothing, the speaker is basically refusing to be trapped inside a noun.
You've got it. It is not an erasure. It is a profound liberation. The text deliberately forces the immense paradoxical tension between everything and nothing to collide.
Like matter and antimatter.
Exactly like matter and antimatter coming together. The resulting spark burns away all the nouns we've used so far. It incinerates the sky, the brother, the stars, the angels. It burns away every label you have ever applied to yourself.
Wow.
And what is left standing in the ashes of that paradox?
Just the last two words. Ich bin. I am.
Pure, unconditioned existence, pure awareness.
It's so powerful precisely because it refuses to add a predicate. It doesn't say, I am happy, or I am a person, or even, I am the universe. Just, I am.
It stands completely on its own.
It's like the hum of an amplifier before you plug the guitar in and play a note. It's the baseline frequency of reality, the unmanifested potential from which all things arise.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. The text strips you down to the very core of your being. Before you are a body, before you are a sibling, before you are a builder or a stargazer, before any label or relationship or physical form is applied to you, you simply are.
Yeah.
Your fundamental nature is pure, unfiltered existence.
So we've gone from the macro environment to the microfamily to the cosmic divine, and finally arrived at the absolute formless void of pure existence. You would think that's the end. Drop the mic, deep dive over.
You would think so.
But here is where this specific piece of source material elevates from just a great poem to a structural masterpiece. The text of the poem is only part of the story.
Ah, yes. The metadata.
Exactly. The metadata attached to the text, the author's chosen pseudonym, and the exact date it was published is actually a crucial functional part of the artwork. It is the scaffolding that holds the whole fractal together.
It acts as a methodological signature. Let's look at that final line of the source material. Mandala Matrix 10.10, 2007.
Right.
We do not know the legal name of the person who wrote this, but in the context of early internet culture, pseudonyms were not just ways to hide, they were ways to construct an identity.
Like an avatar.
Exactly. And the author chose a name that is incredibly loaded with mechanical meaning. Let's break it in half, starting with mandala.
What is the actual mechanical function of a mandala?
A mandala, originating in Hindu and Tibetan Buddhist traditions, is a complex geometric design that represents the cosmos metaphysically or symbolically.
Oh, like those intricate sand paintings.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Tibetan monks will spend weeks creating incredibly intricate mandalas out of colored sand, meticulously placing every grain to represent deities, universes, and paths to enlightenment. But fundamentally, a mandala is circular.
Circular.
It represents a holistic, perfectly balanced universe. Is used as a psychological tool for focusing attention, establishing a sacred space, and drawing the practitioner's eye toward a singular center point.
And then we have the second half of the name, matrix.
Right. The word matrix derives from the Latin word for womb. It represents an environment or a material in which something develops.
Okay, like a growth medium.
And in mathematics and computer science, a matrix is a grid, a highly structured array of numbers or data. It is the structural scaffolding of reality.
So when you combine the mandala matrix, you get a circular, perfectly balanced sacred structure, the mandala, in which a new reality is developed and structured, the matrix.
Yes.
And if you look back at the mechanics of the poem we just spent an hour analyzing, the poem itself is a literal mandala matrix.
Yes, the architecture is flawless. It functions exactly as its title implies. It is a mandala because it is perfectly circular. It begins with the words ik, and it ends with the words ich bin. The entire journey of the cosmos loops right back to the center point of the self.
And it is a matrix because it is incredibly, almost mathematically structured. Every stanza is a perfect grid of paired dualities.
Sky above, earth below. Body without, spirit within.
Father guiding, mother sensing, brother playing, sister loving.
Sun warming, moon comforting, everything and nothing.
It is a masterclass in structural balance. The pseudonym isn't just a screen name, it is the architectural blueprint for the poem itself. You can't separate the builder from the building.
And if that wasn't enough to prove the staggering obsessive intentionality behind every single syllable of this text, we must lick the timestamp. October 10th, 2007. The 10th day of the 10th month. In a poem that is obsessively focused on duality, on balance, and on the concept of a matrix. The author deliberately published it on 10.10.
It's binary code, ones and zeros, 1010. The fundamental, foundational language of all digital matrices.
Exactly. And let's connect that binary back to the philosophy we just discussed. In binary code, a 1 represents on, or a positive state of existence. A 0 represents off, or a null state.
Right.
The date, 10.10, is the numeric representation of the climax of the poem. Everything, the 1 and nothing, the 0, everything and nothing. It mirrors the exact balance dualities we just walked through.
That is absolutely mind-blowing. Think about the cultural context of 2007, too.
Yeah, early internet days.
Right. This is the era of early Web 2.0. People were just starting to realize that the internet wasn't just a place to look up information. It was a space where you could build entirely new digital universes. You had forums, early social media, virtual worlds.
The birth of digital realities.
It makes perfect sense that an author in 2007 would synthesize ancient Eastern mysticism like mandalas and non-dualism with the digital architecture of a matrix and binary code. They waited for the exact perfect day in the calendar year to lock this concept into existence so that even the timestamp became part of the poetry.
It speaks to a level of aesthetic and conceptual discipline that is exceedingly rare. There is no wasted space in these 15 lines. The metadata validates our entire interpretation of the text.
It really does.
It confirms that the fractal loops, the psychological structures, and the cosmic paradoxes were deeply, deliberately engineered by the author.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? You've just spent this deep dive journeying through the physics of the sky, the architecture of the human family tree, the mechanics of cosmic non-dualism, and the binary code of the universe.
It's been quite a ride.
We took a simple 15-line German text, something that looks so unassuming, so quick to just scroll past on a screen, and we watched it meticulously deconstruct the very nature of identity.
We moved from a localized, isolated ego to an expanded environmental awareness, to an internalized, self-sufficient psychological ecosystem, to a cosmic, divine identity, and finally rested in the pure, labelless state of simply being.
But knowledge is only valuable when it is applied.
Extremely true.
This text is not an abstract puzzle meant to be solved and then just put on a shelf to collect dust. It is a highly functional tool designed to reframe your daily experience.
I agree completely.
So, how do you suggest someone practically applies this?
Think about this tomorrow morning as you go about your day. When you feel overwhelmed by your environment, when you feel crushed by the demands of your job or the chaos of the city, use the architecture of the first stanza. You are not a victim of the space you inhabit, you are the space.
That shifts the power dynamic instantly.
It does. And when you feel profoundly isolated, when you feel like you lack guidance or love, use the architecture of the second stanza. You possess the father, the mother, the sibling within. You are the entire psychological ecosystem. You do not need to extract validation from the outside world.
It is a radical reclaiming of your own agency. It challenges you to stop looking entirely outward for definition, for comfort, or for awe, and to basically recognize the infinite fractal depth of your own internal landscape.
It brings us all the way back to that VR headset analogy we started with.
Right?
The realization that looking outward is ultimately just a reflection of looking inward.
Which leaves us with a necessary question to test the boundaries of your own reality moving forward.
I think we have to ask it.
Based entirely on the inescapable logic this text has just laid out for us, if the observer and the observed are truly one, if you are indeed the sky you look into and the earth you build upon, how does that change the way you will look at the very next person or the very next physical object you encounter the moment this deep dive ends?
It changes everything.
Are you looking at a separate alien stranger? Or are you just looking at another beautiful, complex piece of the fractal, staring right back at you?